is. If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Good evening and welcome to episode 39 of Horsin Around right here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your proud host, Howard Kravitz, and I will be joined very soon by a plethora of hosts and co-hosts to join me for a very special night. This is a night that I've been looking forward to for quite a while. We'll be announcing our 2024 Eclipse winners right here on the HHH Racing Podcast. Our opinion of who should win the 2024 Horse Racing Eclipse Awards. Thanks for joining us tonight. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button on the bottom right-hand side of the screen, notification bell on the top right, and smash that like button. We greatly appreciate it. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. How about that font and color for the awards night? Do you like it? A little gold, a little fancy font? Let's go. The tip sheet. Hello, boys. How about a over $4 ROI? The tip sheet has been absolutely en fuego. Yours truly gave out both spot best plays of the day on Saturday. Look, I really don't like to toot my own horn. I'll let other people speak for it, but it really has been extremely profitable lately. I highly recommend people look into it. Look below the video player because I can't be any more proud of it. I got a lot of emails and text and things saying people crushed on Saturday. So really happy for everyone with that. We got a great website as well, hhhracingpodcast.com. All right, without further ado, let me bring on my wonderful co-hosts tonight. We've got four of them to discuss the HHH Racing Podcast Eclipse Award winners. First, the only true Eclipse Award voter that will be on this screen from the Saratoga Special and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Mr. Paul Halloran, a wonderful co-host of Picks and Ponies from the East Coast of Maryland, Mr. Pete Visco, co-host of Bettin' and Boozin' from New Jersey, Patrick Kunzel, and from the left coast, co-host of Pacific Horse Players, Ryan Anderson. Gentlemen, let's go full screen here a little bit. How are we doing tonight? We got a little awards special show. Pete, how you doing, first of all?
I'm awesome. What's up, everybody? It's good to share the screen with this varied crew of HHH hosts and co-hosts. It's awesome.
Very nice. And Paul, you're the only true voter. Of course, we'll talk about your. How long have you been a voter, by the way, an official voter?
That's a good question. I would say about 4 years, maybe.
That's cool. Very cool. That's quite the honor. I'd love to do that someday because I'll tell you what, I will not be skipping out on any votes, but we'll get to that in just a bit. Patrick, are you an awards guy? Do you watch the Oscars, the Emmys, the Golden Globes? You're like, I don't want any part of that.
I want no part of that.
No part. Okay. All right. Ryan, I mean, you're not too far from Hollywood. I mean, you go to any parties ever for the award shows?
No parties of any kind up in Hollywood for me. Yeah, I'm not an award show guy either. I'm with Patrick on that one. Eclipse Awards is one of the few that and NFL Honors will be the two award shows that I'll tune into.
There you go.
And then I'll catch, one of those cold opens if it's like Ricky Gervais or someone making hilarious jokes for one of those Academy Awards. But I won't watch the rest of it.
For sure. We got a ton of people in the chat. Let's just bring on a few real quick. Matt Miller, always fun watching the gang assembly. Yeah, it's always great when we have more than a few people here tonight. Brad Anderson is here. Brad, congratulations. Brad finished fourth, by the way. Really good showing in an NHC qualifier. Did not qualify for the NHC, but did very well and got some cash back. Great job, Brad, for that. Yes, hello, Power Picks just crushed our bets. Brad, I'm glad you had a good weekend with that. We got Terry Frank is here. Let's see, Tom Espinoza. Hello, everyone out there. Yes, Ryan and I out on the left coast. What's up, Tom, from the Bay Area? Hope you're doing well. And just once again, guys, we're going to move on here after this comment. But, thoughts are out in the LA area. I know the fires have died down a little bit, but the wind's supposed to pick up the next 2 days. Santa Anita will be racing as of now, I believe Thursday through Monday, because Monday is Martin Luther King Day. So they got, 5 days in a row, I believe, of racing. Hopefully, cross our fingers, guys. But most importantly, hope everyone stays safe out there and is careful and hopefully things are going to get back to at least somewhat normal. Before we talk about the Eclipse Awards, and here's what we're going to do. We're going to go through not every category, ladies and gentlemen. There are, I think, 18, 17 categories. We're going to go through 13 of them. We're going to skip a few of the ones that are, we don't know as much about. I wouldn't say less important, but the ones I think we believe that viewers would be most interested in. And what we did is the 5 people on this screen, they sent me their top picks. And so when I announced the HHH Racing Podcast Eclipse Award winners, those are just the opinions of the 5 of us on the screen. Noah, let's see, Kyle, and Charlie, we did not get their opinions, although I do know some of their opinions anyway. But the 5 of us will sort of decide for the group, and then we will have small discussions with some of the categories. Because, guys, some of the categories were split decision, so to speak, 3-2. So we'll talk about that. Before we get into that, Paul, very quickly, how do you feel? Tell them, give a snapshot of what the process is for who is decided to be the winner, and how do you feel about the process? It's a real
Yeah, so I think we talked about it first. There's 3 voting blocks. It's the National Turf Riders, the DRF, and the NTRA are the 3 voting blocks. First place votes are really all that counts as far as picking the winners. You do vote for 3 though, and they do have a point system. That's how they come up with the 3 finalists. So we get we get an electronic ballot in the mail early December, and we get a nice hard copy DRF edition of the PPs of all the nominees. Obviously available online as well, but for this I like to use paper. And they encourage us to wait till at least after opening day at Santa Anita, because we know that Malibu card, the Malibu and potentially could change some opinions. And they're due, I think, January 2nd, 3rd, 4th, right around there. And then finalists were named, as you know, about a week ago. And the 23rd, I believe, is the awards night.
Yes, a week from Thursday at the Breakers in Palm Beach. Beautiful place. Black tie only. By the way, happy birthday to Bob Baffert today. Just to let
72.
72. Quite amazing. How do you feel about the process, Paul? Would you change anything?
I guess you could make an argument that the winner could be determined by points as opposed to only first place votes. I don't have a strong.
That's how they do the MVP, right? Right, Patrick and Ryan, like NFL, and right. It's like they include the second, third place finishers, right, in the voting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I wonder why do they not do that, Paul? Is there just too many
I think
horses?
you open yourself up to a winner getting far fewer first place votes than you could have the horse get like a whole bunch of second place votes, and so I mean these are important, obviously, but no one's living or dying based on winning the Eclipse. Although the statue is very nice. The statue cost a couple of $1,000 at least to make. I think we talked before when NBC won one in 22 for the broadcast of the Cody's Wish piece. Jack Felling, the executive producer, sent the actual Eclipse to Cody. So there is an actual Eclipse Award living in Richmond, Kentucky. It's awesome. It is as trophies go, it is a pretty damn impressive award. I'll say that.
How do you feel about people that abstain? I'm going to get everyone's opinion on the screen just very briefly, but I'm going to let Paul go first as the actual Eclipse voter. I know Ed DeRosa, some people put out their votes publicly. I know Ed DeRosa put his on X and got quite a bit of flack because I don't want to say exactly, I don't recall, but he abstained on like at least 5 or 6 categories. And took a lot of heat for that, and then claimed that was sort of a badge of honor, which I thought was a little bit weird. But
I don't really get it. And I'll make the analogy to to gambling, because we're all gamblers. I might not like every race the same, and maybe I'll sit out a race, but I mean I might bet more on the stakes race than I do on the maiden special or maiden claimer, but I just think it requires a little more effort. I mean, I don't follow the steeplechase that closely, although I am a part owner of a horse who won a steeplechase race
Yes,
last
you
year.
are.
But I mean, I could take the effort to call or read Joe and Sean Clancy. I just think it. I honestly, I think it's a little lazy, and I think it's a little disingenuous. It's like if I get assigned to do a story and I don't really know a lot about it, then it's my job to find out about it in order to produce a good story. Okay. I was at Saratoga covering races this summer and got a text from Tom Law telling me I had to go interview the New York State doctor who took the races off the turf. Okay. Not how I envisioned spending the day, but, I think I produced a pretty damn good story about why they took the races off the turf. Got our guy Aidan O'Brien on the phone from Ireland, got his opinion, Howard. So I think it's a little lazy, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So that's what I think.
I agree. By the way, Kyle Ross, good friend of a host of Bet and Boozins here, looking fancy gentleman. Noah Maher is also host of Pacific Horse Players. They're here in spirit. Charlie's, I don't know, trying to figure out how to fly to Atlanta, I think is what he's doing right now. But go Rams, says Noah. Pete, real quick, the abstention issue.
Yeah, it's kind of stupid. I mean, it's pretty easy. It's like handicapping a race, in all honesty. I mean, because I don't know who's running in a 10,000 claimer, if I don't know the horses by sight, does that mean I can't handicap the race? You could just as easily look at past performances, watch a couple replays, and figure it out. I mean, they're like the breeder, which I don't think we're going to talk about tonight, but the breeder's not something that I pay much attention to. Generally, some of the big ones, maybe if you're personalized with some. But I mean, it's not that hard to look up which horses did they have, how much money did they win? Just a few things, at least to have an informed opinion. I don't think it's that hard.
I agree. Paul, remind us again, you did get PPs of all the horses, so people don't really have to do that much research, right? It's right there. I mean, Patrick, thoughts?
And
people that decide not to vote on certain categories?
Stats on breeders, owners, trainers, Pete. It's all here.
I mean, I agree with Paul. I think it's kind of laziness too. If you have the privilege to vote, why you should have to vote for everything?
Should there be a punishment, Patrick? Like, should they have to vote for every horse? Should it be listed? You can only have 2 abstentions. Like, should there be some kind of rule, or just let the people do what the F they want?
I mean, there should be some sort of punishment, I would say. If you're not going to fill out the whole ballot, why even submit it?
Ryan?
Yeah, what everybody else has said. It's if you're worthy of getting a vote, you got to use it. Don't abstain. It's a category. Paul showed us the past performances. It's in hand. It doesn't take that much work to do. It doesn't take that much to vote. I mean, that it is laziness if you abstain from any vote.
Guys, I don't understand it at all. Do your damn job. Okay? Just do your damn job. You don't know, find out. I understand maybe 1 or 2 categories, and I know I sort of singled out Ed DeRosa, but I'm sure there's others. Paul, I don't know. I'm not sure there's others. I don't know for a fact.
Yeah, there are. Oh, definitely.
I understand there's abstentions with certain categories, but do your damn job. I mean, I actually am more irritated than maybe some of you guys on the screen. I don't like it at all, to be very honest. But anyway, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens. There are definitely some categories, guys, as we're gonna bring up right now that could go either way. So let's jump right in. And again, the 5 of us are deciding for the entire podcast. We don't want to give short shrift to Kyle, Noah, or Charlie, but it looks like Kyle and Noah are at least watching right now. They feel free, gentlemen, to jump in with your personal opinions. Like I said, we're going to pretty quickly through some of the categories, and other categories we're going to take more time. The first I'm also going to show the 3 finalists, guys, as well on the screen, but not for this first one. Horse of the Year. We actually had a show, Pete and Paul. Actually, Paul, you were with me with Kenny McPeak, and then I interviewed Mike Rapoli separately. Guys, it's an incredible story, but the Horse of the Year for the HHH Racing Podcast is, drum rolling one, Torpedo Anna. Congratulations to Torpedo Anna, Horse of the Year for the HHH Racing Podcast. Paul, we talked to Kenny McPeak. There's really not too much to be said. I'll bring up what she did this year. Very deserving winner, and females don't win this award very often, by the way.
Yeah, and I think you could make an argument that she made her best case for the award in a race that she lost, the Travers, running against the boys.
I agree.
I don't think They were talking a little bit of idiomatic last year, which was a little idiotic. I don't think you win this as a female again, unless running against the boys and acquitting yourself well. And she ran the race of her life and losing to Fierceness. One or two more strides and she gets them. So I think she's going to be a convincing winner. This is the only category where they don't announce the finalists, if I'm correct.
Yes.
And it's going to be, selfishly, it's going to be a little anticlimactic watching this year after our dear friend Kylie announcing the Horse of the Year last year. Wasn't that the highlight of all highlights for Horse of the Year?
It was pretty cool. Pat, I want to go to you. I know you've been a huge fan of this horse all year long. I had the pleasure with Kyle and Charlie and Noah to actually see her win the Oaks in person. I will selfishly pat myself in the back, one of the few people that actually picked Torpedo Anna in the Oaks. It's sort of funny, Pat, when you have to, she's Horse of the Year. You were, a lot of people didn't even think she was going to win the Oaks. It's just amazing how a horse can just come on and just be a force for an entire calendar year, really.
Yeah, and I think with the way Kenny McPeak, kind of advertised her, on X and things like that, it brought to fruition more about just how good she is, and seeing the day-to-day with her was just great. I think it was amazing how the year she had and just the progression she had and being able to face the boys, and hopefully, in 2025, if she stays healthy, we can see it again.
Was her? You see, there's what happened this year. Obviously, she won the Fantasy, won the Oaks, won the Acorn Grade 1, Coaching Club America, second the Travers, won the Cotillion, won the Breeders' Cup Distaff. Do you agree, Ryan, with Paul that her best effort of the year was actually in defeat to Fierceness?
Absolutely. She ran lights out against the boys. I mean, I know on Buyer Speed Figures, it also stands out as one of the best. But aside from that, just the race that was run, Torpedo absolutely ran her best against them. She stepped up to the competition that was there. And clearly she wiped the floor with all the other fillies that she faced in 2024. So for her to step up against the boys and the Travers and run the race that she did, then she absolutely ran lights out and ran her best.
Pete, assuming you agree Torpedo Anna wins, who do you think should get second? And how do you compare Torpedo Anna to year? Or how do you compare Torpedo Anna to other great fillies like, that we've seen recently, like Zenyatta, Swiss Skydiver? I mean, there's some been really talented. Beholder. There's some really good fillies and mares we've had over the last 20 years.
Yeah, I think we talked about it on the show. I had her. I didn't want to give the second one away because that might spoil votes in one of the other categories. But I thought it was. I actually think it's kind of a weak year, and I think she's benefiting from the fact that there is no other real logical contender. I mean, I think you could make a case for some, but I think you'd be stretching it a bit. I don't think there's a lot of other Horse of the Year candidates that are out there. So as much as I don't really think her year stacks up anywhere near some of the past ones, I think in a year where the rest is down, I do want to say one thing to give our man Patrick down there. We had a show, I forget what it was for, and Patrick called out the top three, and he got poo-pooed a little bit when he said Fierceness, Sierra Leone, and Torpedo Anna would be the three, and those seem to be the three that are up for Horse of the Year. So, Patrick, you should, tip your hat to you because you called it out. Other people on the show laughed and made fun of you a little bit. And
I think I misspoke there, Pete. Though, I did say Sierra Leone should win Horse of the Year, not meaning to say that. That's what caught Paul off guard a little bit. But I did get the top three.
You had the top three. That just take the yes and be happy.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, guys, we're gonna go. So we have Torpedo Anna. I'm pretty sure she's gonna win, guys. I would say somewhat handily, but we'll see. You never know. Okay, let's move on here. We're gonna go in the order you see on the screen. There's more than just what we see on the screen. 2-year-old male. By the way, I heard Chance Patrick has had some issues, guys, recently, and is not guaranteed to make the Triple Crown Trail. That'd be a real bummer, but we'll see. But the HHH Racing Podcast 2-year-old male for 2024 is Citizen Bull, the Breeders' Cup champ. I think this is a bit of a no-brainer, guys. I think this is going to bring up a very interesting theme throughout this night, though, is how much do you value the Breeders' Cup races? Because they are the Breeders' Cup championships. Paul, I have a very strong opinion on that, which I will sort of hold off on. But in general, Paul, how much do you weigh as a voter the Breeders' Cup races themselves?
Well, I think in a category where it's wide open, if you will, there's no clear-cut winner, I tend to rely on it even more. It is the championship race at the end of the year, and especially for horses who run a full campaign and are still competing at top level the first week of November. I think you have to put extra weight on it for sure.
And the other question, Paul, for you, and I'm asking Paul, guys, because he's a voter, of course. Do you think is there a certain amount of races you think a horse has to? Now I know the rule is they have to only run once to North America, but in your mind, for the American-based horses, the North American-based horses, do you have a sort of number of races in your mind that you say, okay, a horse has to run at least X amount of races to be considered champ in my own mind? Because I have a number in mind personally.
I kind of use at least 3 as a baseline.
Yeah,
and we'll talk when we get into another category. That there's also the question of how many times do you think they have to run in North America? And I went totally against my previous philosophy on that in one of the categories because I just really felt that I was backed into a corner and there was no other obvious choice.
I'd love to hear people's opinion in the chat. We got a lot of people watching. Greatly appreciate it. Any opinions on any of these categories, feel free to put them in the chat. I'll try to bring up as many as possible. 2-year-old filly. This is an absolute no-brainer. The 2-year-old filly champ for us and who is going to be the filly champ is Immersive for Godolphin. What a year for Immersive, Paul. You obviously know the Godolphin people very well. Patrick, I don't know if you heard, but Immersive is going to be out, though, for the Oaks. She's got some issues. But she'll be back for the summer. She never really ran that fast, but she was just really consistent and very good and very deserving.
Yeah, she was somebody that I seem to always be betting against all year long. But this is very well deserving. One of the more obvious choices, and she looked like she was going to establish herself as maybe a true superstar this year, if not for the bad news.
Yeah, it's a real whoops, I wanted to go full screen. It's a real bummer that she's injured, but she will be back. It's not career threatening. All right, guys, we're gonna go into a very important category that I think will be one of the closest votes of the entire. So I'm just switching screens here on the other side. One of the closest votes I think come a week from Thursday, and that is 3-year-old male, guys. So let me first show the choices here. 3-year-old male. Here are the finalists: Dornoch, Fierceness, and Sierra Leone. Let's be honest, guys. This is between Fierceness and Sierra Leone. And look, I think they're both deserving. I certainly have my own opinions, but I don't think you can go wrong either way. But in a split vote, 3-2 on this screen, the HHH Racing Podcast 3-year-old male of the year is Sierra Leone. Wins 3-year-old male of the year. We had extensive conversation. Go back and watch the show with Mike Rapoli. That's a good show to watch. I'm sorry I don't know the episode number, but you can check it out. Just for full disclosure on the screen, guys, I don't want to screw this up. Myself, I think Ryan and Patrick went Sierra Leone. Is that right, guys? Okay. And Pete and Paul went Fierceness. I'm just going to show very quickly what Sierra Leone did this year, guys. I have it up on the screen. We're not going to do this for every category, but because otherwise we'd be here for 2 hours. But I think this category deserves a little bit of conversation. Let me bring up what Sierra Leone did this year right here, guys. We'll have a quick discussion about it. Sierra Leone, there we go. Won the Ridden Star Grade 2, won the Bluegrass. Second, of course, in the Derby, heartbreaking. Third in the Belmont, second in the Jim Dandy, third in the Travers, won the Classic. He never ran a bad race. He saved his best for last, you could argue, in the Classic. And the reason why I wanted to have that important conversation is, Paul, obviously you took the whole year into consideration, as everyone should, and as I did. But let me just give my one point, and then I'm going to let Pete and Paul talk for a minute. To me, the deciding factor here is the Derby. I understand it's one race. I understand it's a weird race, guys. And Fierceness had an amazing summer. I can't take that away, right? Dandy, Travers, fantastic. But in the biggest race of the year for 3-year-olds, he just didn't show up. And I can't discount that. I thought he ran huge in the Classic. You could argue he ran the best race in the Classic. I wouldn't make that, I wouldn't go against that. And yes, he did beat Sierra Leone twice. They each beat each other twice, and I don't love that conversation anyway. But when it comes right down to it, for me, I'm just speaking for myself only, the Derby's the separator. I mean, Sierra Leone lost by an inch. Fierceness was nowhere to be found. The two biggest races of the year, guys, I think we'd all agree, is the Derby and the Breeders' Cup Classic. Fierceness didn't win either one of them. I can't, I can't do it. Sierra Leone beat him both times in those races. Paul, give us the and Pat and actually, let me go to Pat and Ryan first, out of respect to them and the conversation flows better.
I agree.
Pat, why Sierra Leone, other than the reasons I said?
Yeah, I mean, I think on the day it mattered most, and it wasn't the Derby for me. It was, the Classic. I know you can make the case Fierceness might have run the better race, but who won the race? And Sierra Leone did, and that was kind of the cherry on top for me.
Do you want to add anything to that conversation, Ryan? It's a tough decision, obviously.
Yeah, definitely a tough decision, but I just ended up with the horse that's never been out of the trifecta. Just a model of absolute consistency every time he steps on the track. He's never run a race worse than his previous race. He just keeps getting better. He keeps improving on speed figures. And yeah, I mean, the final nail in the coffin was the Breeders' Cup Classic win.
I agree. Paul Collins had too much scar tissue with Sierra Leone for the co-host. Look, I totally understand that too. Tom Espinoza said the Sierra Leone Breeders' Cup Classic win tipped the scale in his opinion. Okay, very briefly, let's give the contrary. Pete, why Fierceness?
I thought for most of the year, I thought Sierra Leone was disappointing, and it's hard, and Fierceness was disappointing at times. But I thought for most of the year, Sierra Leone, and we talked about it a bunch on this show, even though he always ran a good race, he disappointed in a lot of those races. And even in the Derby, I mean, the Derby was nice, and he could have been knocked down to third and all that stuff that happened. But I just think he was a little bit more disappointing. He got the setup in the Classic that worked best for him, and he won that race. But to me, I liked Fierceness's 3 best races better than I liked Sierra Leone's 3 best races. And it mostly just came down to that. I thought his best races were a little more impressive to me. So in a category where, again, I don't think either one of them is a standout. I think you're nitpicking with both of them because there's knocks and positives against both. I just liked Fierceness's the top of his better, even though from a consistency standpoint, like Ryan said, I think you have to give that to Sierra Leone. And I like the improvement. I think going into this year, I think he might be the horse to look for, but that doesn't have anything to do with this award.
Oh boy, no Amaro, Fierceness, looking for the tiebreaker from Kyle.
Yeah, no.
What would you like to add to that? I guess the question, I think Pete hit the nail on the head, Paul. Like, do you value consistency plus winning, or do you value a horse that was more spectacular but had some real duds? I think that's really, or one real dud at the most important time of the year, right?
Yeah, I think it's very close. And in all honesty, I did vote for Fierceness, but I don't have any problem. But I don't necessarily disagree with your pick, Howard. I don't like your reasoning, though. I think relying on the Derby as such a factor is the Derby is a one-off.
Actually, for me too, Paul, the Derby is actually the least.
It's in May.
The race for me.
I get it. And if you're going to say Sierra Leone ran the best race in the Derby, then you could say Fierceness ran the best race in the Classic due to the pace considerations. So, like I say, I have no problem with the pick, but I'm not, based on what the history of the Derby. We've talked about the last time a Derby winner has won a race. I just think the Breeders' Cup Classic is a legitimate end of the year reason to vote for Sierra Leone, and I have no problem with people who did. I thought it was Fierceness so close. I think the Travers, because of the torpedo Anna factor, was every bit as good a race as any of the races we've talked about. So, but I again, no problem with Sierra Leone, but I don't like leaning on the Derby as the be all and end all.
One last question, move on. Pat and Ryan. Well, let me give my opinion. If Fierceness wins the Classic, he is my 3-year-old of the year. Pat or Ryan, any pushback on that?
If Fierceness wins the Classic, he's horse of the year.
He's horse of the year, right, Ryan?
Yeah,
really. Say the same thing. Yeah, I think it's
100%.
Yeah, I think that's a lot.
100%.
That would have been a tough conversation. That's
I don't even
interesting.
think it's tough. I think that's a lock if he.
No, I don't know if I agree on that, but I definitely male.
Okay. Well, that was sort of the final straw for me was the Classic. I mean, we talk. We're gonna move on, guys, but we watch races every day where a horse was the best but didn't win. I mean, so I don't know. I think they're both really good horses. I can't wait. I guess Sierra Leone is going to try to get to Saudi. Well, we'll see. I've got a weird vibe that he's not going to run in Saudi, but they're training him up to like he is going to run in Saudi. We'll see. But when those two hook up again, guys, it's going to be fun. They have I wish they had the same style in a way because they're never really going to be head to head. You know, it's like one's going to be closing from further back in theory. And I'm sure they're going to see each other eye to eye at some point, but not throughout a race. I'd love to see them both.
Yeah.
Like just even like almost a match race kind of situation, Paul. That'd be fun. It's never going to happen, obviously, or we don't think that would happen. But anyway,
maybe the 8th pole. Maybe they'll lock in at the 8th pole at the Whitney.
I'll tell you what, that would be something else. All right, let's move on. We're going to move on again. There's that category and one other category we're going to take longer. The other ones are going to go much quicker because there's really not too much to add. There's really not a lot of details that need to be shared. All right. Whoops, where did I just move on? There we go. 3-year-old filly. I mean,
Next.
Obviously,
Yeah,
right, exactly. But I got to show it. There it is. Torpedo Anna. Next, move on. Older dirt male. This is an interesting category. Full Serrano, National Treasure, Straight Note Chaser. The winner of the HHH Racing Podcast 2024 Eclipse Award for Older Dirt Male goes to National Treasure. It's too bad this horse was, he had a great start to his year. Obviously, won the Pegasus and then won the Met Mile. I mean, Pete, those two races alone, pretty damn good resume. I know he didn't do a lot after that. He got injured, blah, blah, blah. But those are two of the bigger races for older horses all year long.
Yeah, I tried very hard to find a reason to pick Full Serrano or Straight No Chaser because I just don't think National Treasure should win based on his year. But he did win 2 high-profile races, and it's a shit category, and there were very good options. So I would have rather seen Next win than any of these, just for the sake of I think he at least put a stamp on the sport in some way. And I think if he didn't run in the Classic and run so poorly to myself and Ryan's chagrin with our picks on the pod, then I think I could have made a case for him, at least just from a sake of the rest of these just don't seem to fit the bill.
Ryan, should Next have been one of the top 3 candidates? And if he was, who would you have eliminated?
Yeah, I think he should have been. I mean, National Treasure and Full Serrano. Full Serrano won a Breeders' Cup race, so it's tough to take him off. National Treasure had, a grade 1 in the Pegasus and a grade 1 in the Met Mile. You can't really take him off. So I guess it would be Straight No Chaser because he really only ran 3 times this year.
Who also won a Breeders' Cup race, though.
He did. He did also win a Breeders' Cup race. But
I know I put you on the spot, my friend.
I know. Just the older dirt males, I feel like maybe this is the wrong point of view, but I feel like you have to be able to go 2 turns. Maybe that's just me because there is a sprint category. Okay. So for the sprinter, I mean, they have their own category. So for older dirt male, I think 2 turns. So I would take off Straight No Chaser for that, and I would put Next. I still would pick National Treasure over him with 2 grade 1s against the best caliber of horses. Next just eliminated the marathon competition. Again, hats off that they tried the Classic, but I think he's still somewhere around the quarter pole right now. So.
I think Pat, if Next had run top 5, like a respectable in the Classic, I think you can make the argument to put him up there. He's just so bad. It's clear he's not. Well, I don't know if it's clear, but in my opinion, that race ended up hurting him. I think for the awards.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, it's if you put Straight No Chaser in the Classic, he would have probably ran 15th or whatever. How many numbers there were?
He's a sprinter, though, Pete.
That's what I mean. Does that? But so Next is a long distance horse. Like this, not his
a mile and a
game.
quarter, mile and a half. That's not.
It's humongous.
It's a big difference.
Huge difference.
Well, in the way they run it, but not the. Okay, I understand what you're saying.
In the way they run it, it's night and day to me.
Yeah, but you're comparing 6 furlongs a mile and a quarter.
No, I'm just saying you're still taking a horse out of what their comfort zone, and you're trying to judge them. It's apples oranges a little bit, which makes it tough.
I'm just making a math argument. It's a 4 furlong.
No, I
distance
agree
for
with
a
you on
two-
that, but
versus
I'm
a 2
saying
furlong
it's
distance. But point.
yeah.
No, there's no doubt about that. Point. I still like the fact they ran the classic. By the way, I just want to say that.
I would have
like
wished they would have ran him in the turf just to keep him at like the lengthier distance, maybe a little slower.
I voted for next third, Ryan.
Thank
Nice,
you.
There
Paul.
you go.
See, Paul's on the same page.
Sorry
He
about
gets
that,
it.
guys. All right,
He gets it.
this one is the other one that is going to take some conversation, guys. And I'm sorry. It's the second one down. Older dirt female. By the way, this was not unanimous on this.
I thought this was the hardest. I don't know what you guys. I thought
I
this
didn't
was the
think this was
hardest
hard
one.
at all, to be honest. This was not a unanimous vote by everyone on the screen. Let me just go back to full screen here. The winner of the older dirt female for the HHH Racing Podcast is Idiomatic, who unfortunately got hurt and could not run against Torpedo Anna in the Distaff. But Idiomatic had a great year. There's one person on the screen that did not vote for Idiomatic, and it was who'd you vote for, Pete?
I voted for Raging Sea just to pick somebody.
Was there any reason, or you just want to be contrarian?
He had two things. Well, Idiomatic. I thought I don't think Idiomatic had a great year, but I think the hardest part for me was Raging Sea was no threat to Torpedo Anna, and from a handicapping standpoint and from a race standpoint. But when Idiomatic was supposed to be in there, she should have been people thought she was a threat, and a lot of people were even picking her to potentially win the race. So that, I think, leans Idiomatic. I thought on paper, though, I just thought Raging Sea on paper. I actually thought Adair Manor on paper was the best of all of them, of the three. And that's who I
Here's
wanted to vote
Idiomatic's
for.
year, by the way, Pete.
Yeah, so
I can make this a little bit bigger, but I know there's a better. I could have brought up PPs, guys. Oops, sorry, I can't do that. I could have brought up PPs tonight, but I didn't want to do that. Idiomatic. Let's see here. Five race campaign, three wins, 2 seconds. She had two grade ones. Yeah,
it's fine. It's a fine year, and I have no problem with her being the unanimous pick. Even I struggled with this one. I looked at all three of them, and I almost went with Adair Manor and just landed on Raging Sea.
Pat, I don't know how you feel. I gotta be honest. The way that Torpedo Anna ran the Distaff, she ran fine. I tell you what, if Idiomatic was ready, I think she would have beat her. I really do. I think she would have been aggressive. I think she's faster early than Torpedo, and I think she would have wired the field. I really do.
Yeah, no, I get that. I thought Idiomatic's win in the Spinster, winning by 6.5 lengths, that was really impressive. And then the personal ensign at Saratoga when I think she hooked up with Randomize and Raging Sea. Idiomatic ran huge that day.
Huge.
I mean, Randomize got
great point.
So, Idiomatic was, kind of, I would say, chalk for me there.
It doesn't really matter anymore, Paul, but now that you saw how Torpedo Anna ran the Distaff, who would you have gone with in that? I was leaning Torpedo Anna at first. Before the scratch, I was leaning Idiomatic, and I still would lean Idiomatic as of this very moment. Of course, we'll never know. I guess it's stupid to talk about, but I'll throw it out there anyway.
I think based on the way Torpedo Anna ran the Travers, I would still stick with those. I think she could have easily caught Idiomatic.
Okay, interesting. Guys, the other category that we're going to take a little, 5 minutes on instead of like 30 seconds. This was a very, very tough category, and this was also a split, I believe, 3-2 vote for people on this screen, and Kyle and Noah and anyone else feel to chime in from our podcast, and that is the male sprinter between Cogburn, Straight No Chaser, and the Chosen Vron. Let's face it, it's between Cogburn and Straight No Chaser. Again, I think they're both somewhat worthy. I have a very, very strong opinion, and the winner, according to our podcast, is not. I only have one vote. I don't double my vote. This ain't Chicago. I get one vote and one vote only. But the 2024 male sprinter for our podcast winner is Cogburn. Wins the 2024 male sprinter over the Breeders' Cup Dirt Sprinter Straight No Chaser. Let me very quickly get everyone's opinion down the screen. I will go last. Pete, who'd you vote for and why in this category?
I voted for Cogburn. And again, to sort of go back on a point, I look at when you look back at the Eclipse or like the Academy Awards or anything, and you look 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and you look back, I feel like the awards should be sort of a snapshot of the season or the year or the whatever.
Agreed.
And I think if you looked at this, Cogburn made a stamp on this year. He was fantastic in his wins. Now he disappointed. It was sort of a funky race, the way they ran it, the way I ran him a little bit in the Breeders' Cup. But I still thought, as far as the year went, I thought he put his stamp on the year. That which race was it? The one that was the 50, whatever the hell that was.
Jaipur.
The Jaipur. There you go. Sorry, it's on the
world
screen
record
there.
time, 59.
Yeah, I just thought that I just thought he was more in the conversation throughout the year, and most of his performances backed that up until the Breeders' Cup. And I thought Straight No Chaser just didn't do enough for me over the course of the year to sort of, I think, overtake that from a start to finish standpoint, not just what he did at the end of the year.
Paul, who'd you vote in your thoughts here?
I voted for Straight No Chaser. I don't have a huge problem with Cogburn, but I don't like the pick. If we talk about the Breeders' Cup carrying some weight, I mean, that was an unspeakably, horrifically bad, terrible, awful performance, and I just can't vote for the top sprinter going 5 furlongs on turf, running a race like that to end the year. I just can't.
I recall you being very critical of the ride, though, Paul. I guess you can't blame the horse for that, but you got to blame someone, right? Did Ira just go too fast too soon? I mean, I don't know.
I mean, maybe, but in that case, he gets picked up by 1 or maybe 2. I mean, I just. Maybe the horse, maybe he had an off day. Okay. So, again, I don't have a huge problem. I kind of defaulted into Straight No Chaser. See our Breeders' Cup conversation of 20 minutes ago about, winning. He won the sprint race at the end of the year. I mean, there've been a million better sprint winners in this category than him. But, again, I would love to have been voted for Mullican, but Mullican got beat by Straight No Chaser on the square in the Breeders' Cup. So I don't hate the Cogburn pick, but I don't like it.
Pat, real quick, your thoughts here? Who you vote for and why?
Yeah, I did Straight No Chaser, but listen, I could be looking at this the wrong way. I think conventional wisdom says this is kind of a dirt horse type of.
It has been in the past, but I don't want to. I don't mean to interrupt you, but just for historical facts, there's the sprint division turf has really come on the last 10 years or so in the United States. I mean, it was never really, they didn't run a lot of turf sprints actually 20 years ago, number one. And number two, you didn't see so many graded stakes. It's really come on as a type of race that's become more popular, just for historical perspective. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, and I'm pretty much going to be saying the same stuff Paul did. I do think the Breeders' Cup sprint was, another cherry on top for me. I kind of signaled back to a lot of these Breeders' Cup races.
Yeah. Ryan, West Coast guy going against your boy Straight No Chaser.
Certainly, yeah. He only ran 3 times. Yeah, no thanks. If Chosen Braun ran in the Breeders' Cup sprint, I absolutely would have voted for him. Pretty much regardless of where he would have finished, if it was top 4, just because he had a pretty extended campaign compared to the rest of these. But I went with Cogburn. I'm not blaming the Breeders' Cup turf sprint on the horse. I'm blaming it on the rider who decided to send him like a quarter horse before they got into the far turn. That made no sense to me. And he still stayed on. He only lost by, a length and a quarter or so. So, I mean, it's not like he finished up the track or anything crazy. But, yeah, Pete said it best to lead it off. He set a world record. You can't really tell the story of horse racing this year without mentioning him. So,
much respect to Paul and Pat, but I have a very strong opinion here. I don't see how you could possibly give to Straight No Chaser. I understand he won the Breeders' Cup, and I understand how the Breeders' Cup is important. I get it. But the Santa Anita Sprint Championship was an awful race. I went back and looked at that, Ryan. That was like Fort Bragg was favored in that race. I mean, there wasn't one horse in that race you'd even consider being like a superstar at all. I know he can't control who he's facing, but that was awful. He ran a complete dud at Belmont. I mean, it's a great story. I love the Blackers. It's awesome. But I mean, he won one race. I know it was the Breeders' Cup, but Cogburn, guys, was like thought of as maybe the best turf sprinter in the history of American horse racing, like better than Golden Pal. I mean, he was. I mean, if he had won, guys, the Breeders' Cup turf sprint by like 3, I'm going to be honest. I think he should have been considered at least in the running for Horse of the Year. I mean, he was unbelievable up until the Breeders' Cup. So, I mean, he won every important race. I think he's a very, very worthy winner, and I'd be, frankly, very disappointed to see if Straight No Chaser wins this. And I respect people's votes, but I don't think it's even close. I really don't. I just,
I think Straight No Chaser is going to win, though.
Do you really?
A lot of people I listen to, Paul, I don't know, you talk to more people in the media. Do you think people favor still the dirt? I mean, a lot of the reasoning I thought was
Pat made a great point.
Breeders' Cup win, and people favor dirt sprints generally by nature than anything else.
That's what I think it is, yeah.
Yeah, it's. I think it's gonna be close, Pete. I haven't really done any type of straw polling, but just from
I was just thinking, listening to
ballots,
pods and stuff when people talked about it.
Yeah, no, I like I said, I think the argument was legitimate, but I just can't, I just can't get over that Breeders' Cup effort, and it might not have been the best ride, but that's exactly how he had been riding him all year, by the way, just running as fast as he can and running them off their feet.
Well, no, he rated in some of his wins, Paul. Not that far back, but like 2 lengths off. He wasn't like on the lead every time. In the Churchill race.
But I mean, is 21-2 in Southern California on the hard turf at Del Mar that ridiculous?
Look, he didn't run great in the Breeders' Cup. I'm not going to make excuse. He should have run better. But this is sort of my point I want to make, and then we're going to move on, guys. And I promise we'll go very quickly through the rest of it. I just don't think the Breeders' Cup should be end all be all. I mean, he was unbelievable before that. Now we're not giving him Horse of the Year because of one bad effort. I know people are going to say, what about Fiercest in the Derby? Yeah, but Fiercest didn't win the Classic, and he also didn't win a Triple Crown race. I know Sierra Leone didn't. Anyway, it's apples and oranges. We can go back and forth forever. But
this is what sort of makes it good, though, right? Because
right. Yeah.
I mean, most of the time, one thing I don't like,
Brian, there we go, guys. Katie said Cogburn, Pete. So let's just move on.
Oh, she's always on our side.
Katie wins. I changed my vote.
One thing about the Eclipse is usually pretty boring from a standpoint of you generally know who's going to win. That's the one thing I don't like about the Eclipse is there's not a ton of discussion about some of the categories. Yeah, it's nice this year. I think you actually have some decisions to make, and it's not just like checking an easy box like we have in so many categories.
Next category, female sprinter. I tell you what, well, our winner is Sullivan Angel, who won the Breeders' Cup filly mare sprint. I don't know about you guys. I looked at
wasn't unanimous. It wasn't unanimous.
I don't think so. Actually,
no,
I don't think so. I looked at Ways and Means really closely, guys. Here's what I didn't realize, and I'm not going to show the Equibase. Sullivan Angel wasn't just a one-hit wonder. She won a Grade 1, a Grade 2, and a Grade 3, and she ran in 5 stakes. Excuse me. She ran in 8 stakes races, guys. 8. She ran 11 times, by the way, in 2024. How about that?
And she won her both sprints impressively, and this is a sprint category.
8 stake races. She won 3 of them. So I was ready maybe to give Ways and Means for an upset, but no, I actually think Sullivan Angel deserves it. Any thoughts? Anyone on the screen want to jump in on that?
Ryan, sounds like you disagree.
I gave it to Ways and Means. I just thought every time she ran a great race. No disrespect to Sullivan Angel. Running 11 times, in this day and age in a year is pretty good. That's, a little less than 1 a month, but that's fantastic. She did everything from sprinting at 7 furlongs to going 2 turns, running third behind, what is that? In the Personal Ensign behind Raging Sea and Idiomatic. So, she ran every race, but I thought Ways and Means was the most consistent in terms of when she showed up. She pretty much ran her race every time. And the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint, along with the Boys Sprint, are 2 races in Breeders' Cups that I don't take super heavily because any number of things happen. And it's not always the best horse that wins. Sometimes it's just, things melt down and set up a certain way. Sullivan Angel broke terribly, and that just happened to work in her favor that day.
I'm gonna let.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm gonna let Pat make a point before you do that. Pat, Ways and Means 5 races this year. in all stake races. In stake races, 2 wins and a second, and a really horrific trip at Gulfstream and in the Oaks. If you remember, she was wide that whole way, and she had a horrific trip at Gulfstream. Go ahead, Pat.
Yeah, I do think the one thing that I think will be interesting is to see how the voters hold her loss in the December 26th race at Gulfstream in the Rampart Stakes. I think that was.
Yeah, she was bad. Well, we should ask Paul about that, right, Pat? I mean,
yeah, Paul, I don't know if you have anything on that.
What's that?
Soul of an Angel's latest race. Do you hold
it was
that against
awful
her?
in the Rampart. I mean,
Yeah, that wasn't good. I voted for her, but that was not good. I tried. Yeah, go ahead, Pat. You finish. I tried to vote for Ways and Means too. I think I lost too much on her in the Breeders' Cup. I was tainted by that, so I couldn't get over it. Go ahead, Pat.
Yeah, no. At the end of the day, I just think nobody did more than her. But I do think that's a question that will be brought in.
well,
I like the 11 starts, Howard. I like the 11 starts that you brought up, Howard.
I do too. But this is why I have a little bit of problem with someone who votes for Fierceness and Soul of an Angel, because Ways and Means was more spectacular and her wins. I think we'd all agree with that, I think. But Soul of the Angel was more consistent. So
but I don't think her wins were impressive, but they weren't necessarily high quality. I thought. I mean,
they
that
were
was
pretty good. She ran some pretty fast numbers. But anyway,
no, she ran well. She had a 101 in the Gallant Bloom and at 45 cents and 98 in the test at 70 cents. I just thought she was.
And what did Soul of the Angel run in the Breeders' Cup filling sprint? Like 98 or something, right?
98.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah, 98. So she wasn't anything. I can't make a big argument against for any of these three here, but I think Soul of an Angel, because she was at her best in the sprints, and didn't lose sprinting, and even in the Rampart, to Pat's point, it was sort of a really slow pace, and she wasn't great, but she was also going a mile, and I don't know. It's a crappy. It wasn't the best division this year. So
no, we're gonna rock and roll through the rest of them. The male turf 2024 goes to Johannes, who unfortunately is injured and out. Not a major injury, but not running in the Pegasus turf was just announced a few days ago. Ryan, let's go to you at West Coast. I think it's a very, very deserving horse. It's nice to see West Coast turf horse win, at least in our opinion.
Absolutely, yeah. To see Johannes continue that campaign all through the year, ran a really hard trying second to more than looks in the Breeders' Cup Mile, and then came right back to win with another 101 buyer after that, proving that like she still had more in the tank, or I'm sorry, he still had more in the tank for that year. And yeah, I mean, just a picture of consistency, never did anything wrong, always ran his race. What more could you ask for?
The next division,
can I ask one question?
Maybe running beating someone outside of California, that would be a modest request.
Well, Paul, that's going to happen next year. That's going to happen this year. I mean, they have to run him in the East Coast,
they didn't last. They didn't. We're voting on 24, I think.
No, I know. I'm just saying, going forward, you would think that he'll prove himself this year, or try to prove himself at least.
Paul,
I hope so, and I think he's good.
Is this the category where you went against your thing? Right? You voted Rebels Romance, I assume.
Yeah, I did. I never do that, but we're talking about a horse who won in one state and a horse who won in 6 countries, who's a mile the best of these. And it's not because it's a Godolphin, trust me. I just couldn't. Yeah. I just had to break that rule. This horse is an hour better than these horses, and I just I just had to do it. I don't like voting for horses who run here once, but
I would probably stick hard and fast to that rule. I don't even think they should be eligible, in all honesty, unless you run at least 2.
Same.
I would say at least 2 at a minimum. I mean, that's not that much of a difference, but I would rather go even 3. But I figure right now, you agree, Ryan?
Yeah, I do. I think like Cinderella's Dream, I think deserved to be nominated because she had, I believe, 3 races over here in the States this year. So that's something where, you're stationed or you shipped out here, you stayed out here, you're stabled out here, you're running here. Rebels Romance, again, the best. I agree with Paul. I don't vote for horses that have 1 start.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm with you with the hard and fast.
Yep.
We have 4 more categories. Like I said, we're going to go quickly. So one of them will take a few minutes just for mathematical reasons. You'll understand why I say in a minute. Female turf, this was a very, very weak division, but it goes to Moira, the filly mare Breeders' Cup champion. I think Cinderella's Dream, to be very honest, is almost as good, if not just as good, talent-wise as Moira. But what did she ran 3 times? I think, Paul. She just, and those New York races were very weak. That's not her fault, but they were weak. I know Charlie Freeman was not real happy with the ride that Cinderella's Dream got in the Breeders' Cup. Cinderella's Dreams could be a major factor, though, this year. Moira's on her way down, obviously, just because of age, Paul, not for any other reason.
Yeah, no, I thought I voted for Moira, and I thought Moira was great. I thought Moira ran okay in the EP Taylor, the race she lost. I think full count Felicia kind of had, and I bet full count Felicia, but she kind of had everything her way. I thought Moira 4 starts, 2 wins, 2 seconds. Lost to a chatty horse, I believe, at Saratoga. And I agree with everything you said. I think long term, Cinderella's Dream could be really good this year, but I think Moira had the better year.
I think She Feels Pretty's the best of the 3, but she just didn't do it early enough. It took her too long.
She might be.
She didn't run in the Breeders' Cup either.
Yeah, it took her too long, and she didn't run in the Breeders' Cup. Where I thought she's actually the best of the bunch to me.
She's really talented, Pete. I'm excited to see her in 2025. 3 categories left. The only one I want to have more of a just here's the winner conversation is the Trainer of the Year, which was not unanimous, by the way. And I'm not going to show it's between Chad Brown, Brad Cox, and Kenny McPeak. Again, it is not unanimous on the screen. But the 2024 winner for Trainer of the Year goes to Chad Brown. I've got some stats, guys. Chad Brown, 925 starts in 2024, 211 wins, 23% win percentage, over 30 million plus in earnings. This is an important stat to me as a math guy. 33,000 per start in earnings. And how about this? 47 graded stake wins for Chad Brown in 2024. Who voted for Kenny McPeak? I know someone did on the screen. Go ahead, Ryan. Give us one pushback. I mean, I guess it's obvious, right?
You train the Derby winner, you train the Horse of the Year, you'll get my vote. Yeah. Chad Brown is, based purely on, money earnings and everything like that you just mentioned. Certainly deserves it. But for me, I went McPeak because Oaks, Derby, and the Horse of the Year, that was enough for me.
I get it, Pat, but 9 graded stakes
Ryan,
for Kenny McPeak. 9 graded stakes for Kenny McPeak. Obviously, he doesn't have big enough. He doesn't stable. What happened?
No.
You called me Pat. It's okay. Go ahead.
I did.
I think
he was actually going to Pat.
I was tossing it to Pat.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's
okay. Misunderstanding. I'm tossing it to Pat. Look, McPeak obviously, guys, has a much smaller stable. I don't know if you can't really. That's the question, right? For everyone else on the screen, other than Ryan here. I mean, obviously McPeak's got a lot less horses. Obviously, his earnings are going to be a lot less. For what he had, Pat, I think you can make the argument that he is Trainer of the Year, but he had 9 grade stake wins versus Chad's 47. I mean, I can't get past that. And Ken McPeak had an unbelievable year, the best of his career, obviously.
Yeah, I don't really think it's that close, but people are gonna paint that question of how do you not give it to the Derby Oaks double and the Breeders' Cup Distaff, trainer winner. So I don't know, and probably the Horse of the Year trainer. And the Horse of the Year trainer, but I do think it's Chad.
If Mystic Dan would have did a little bit more, right? Though, Ryan, that's probably the knock.
I think so.
Mystic Dan only really won that one race of substance. And
if he wins the Malibu, I think we could have a stronger conversation, don't you think? I think the Malibu matters to people. I mean,
I think so too. And my other one was, to me, this award is the equivalent of like in the NFL Coach of the Year. You can't give it to Andy Reid every year just because they're going to go off and win the Super Bowl. Chad Brown is that Andy Reid type of guy. So McPeak had, a standout year, had such a good year with Torpedo and so many others. So that was kind of my thinking behind it, but nothing against Chad Brown. I mean, he also deserves it for the just consistency year after year.
Paul McPeak was 14% also. I mean, I know he doesn't crank his first. We could go on and on about this, but I mean, it's not an easy call, I don't think, though. I think Kenny McPeak's going to get a lot of votes here, just for sentimental reasons, I think, Paul.
I tried hard to vote for Ken McPeak. I have the 13% written right on my PPs here. I did. And someone mentioned early, what he did with Torpedo Anna, announcing when she was going to train every day at Saratoga and inviting people out to see her. I think that counts. But, I do think this is a numbers game to some degree, and it's not just volume. It's, a graded stakes win, 15 graded stakes wins, and et cetera. So I voted Kenny second.
By the way, Brad Cox, highest win percentage of all of them with 26%. Also most wins of all three with 243. He had a hell of a year. I personally hope he wins the Derby. I think he's a good guy. I think he's good for the game. I think he's the best trainer under, 40 years. I think he's under 40. He might not be. But anyway, younger trainer in the game right now. And I think he deserves to win a monster race like the Derby.
He technically won a Derby.
Yeah, he did.
So. Anyway,
I wish my tickets would have won, Ryan, that day.
Yeah, same here.
Last one, guys. Jockey of the year, and I'm very happy that the HHH Racing Podcast is giving 2024 Jockey of the Year to the Frenchman. Flavien Prat broke a record this year for most stake wins in North America. It's between him, Irad, and Tyler. 3 excellent riders. Of course, the news came out today that Irad did get a 3-day suspension, by the way, for the ride on Owen Almighty, which he gets to serve on a Sunday, Wednesday, and Thursday, because he can decide when he gets days, which is a whole other rant that I could have later. I think Paul might have a rant Thursday. We'll wait and see. Let's go back to West Coast. Ryan Flavien, was based on the West Coast. You saw him, in his earlier days out there. We all did. You were out there. This guy just gives unbelievable ride after unbelievable ride. Massive respect, and I really hope he wins, and I'm pretty sure he will.
He's got to run away with this. The funniest enough said about what he did, this year. He did everything. I saw him after the Futurity win in Del Mar, went over to just kind of introduce myself. I had met him once previously that summer. So went over, congratulated him, and he looked at me in the face with no smile or anything. He goes, "It's just business." Like, he's just out there to win. He tries every race, no matter if it's a grade 1 or a claiming 8 non-2. So it's awesome to watch, and he's always coming.
I just want to bring up Hey Ho's comment. This is right to Ryan. This is a guy that agrees with you, and I think indirectly, this is about the trainer. I worry that if the trainer is based purely on earnings and stakes every year, it'll be the same 3 trainers. Obviously, trainers are going to come and go, but it's a fair point. Hey Ho, it's a very fair point. I can't push back on it really.
Except Mott won last year.
That's a good point. Well, maybe that gives McPeak a better chance to win this year. Anyone else want to talk about Flavien versus Irad? It's those two.
Can I ask a question outside of those real quick to Paul? Paul, who was your third jockey on your ballot? I assume it was Pratt.
Brian Hernandez Jr. I thought he deserved some recognition.
Yeah, I thought he probably should have been in the final 3.
Yep.
Right.
He was my third. Yep.
Okay. Just wanted to check.
Pat and Paul, any jockey thoughts, and then we'll wrap up the show.
No, it's not going to be unanimous with a guy like Irad in the mix, but it's it's a runaway.
Yeah, I agree, and kudos to Pratt for coming to the East Coast and dominating over here too.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see, and I'm feeling Irad's actually he was a little cold this weekend for I don't know why, but I think those two guys, in my opinion,
so cold he went left.
You mean all those under even money shots that kept losing that weren't even hitting the board?
I like Tyler. I like Brian. I think Juan Hernandez. There's a lot of really good jockeys out there. To me, guys, Irad and Flavien are clearly the 2 best riders in this country right now on a consistent basis in the biggest moments. If I had a horse running in an ownership perspective, I'd want one of those 2, turf or dirt. And I actually think they're the best 2 turf riders too. And usually it doesn't go hand in hand, right, Paul? But not only the 2 best riders, they both can ride the turf, arguably better than the dirt, actually, if you could make that argument. Really special.
I agree.
Guys, we had a lot of fun. Pat's got to get to his football game, so we got to end it. We got to end the show. I get it. Pat's clearly got money on someone. Guys, there's a lot of fun tonight. I think a lot of our winners are going to be winners for the Eclipse Awards, which again are a week from Thursday. Don't quote me on the time. I think it's 7:30 Eastern is the start. It might be even 7 Eastern start. Check your local listings. And then we have a show right after that, by the way, for Great Race Plays. It's going to be after that, but that is a week from Thursday. Check our YouTube channel for all the shows going on this week. For Pete, Paul, Ryan, Patrick, and yours truly, this has been the 2024 Eclipse Award winners, according to the HHH Racing Podcast. Crush your bets with all your Eclipse Award winners. Take care, everyone. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.